I'm Ryan from ExtremeTerrain.com, and this is my review of the Sprint Booster fitting all 2007 to 2016 JKs. This is for those of you who want to add some throttle response to your Jeep, which will make it feel more powerful and like it has a little bit more get up and go. Now, this is not a tuner. A tuner will change spark, fuel, a lot of other parameters in your Jeep, and you'll usually have to run a higher octane fuel so that you can also run some more timing in the vehicle. That will actually give you more horsepower and more torque, along with changing the throttle response as well. This just changes the throttle response of your Jeep, so while it will feel more powerful, it doesn't actually add any horsepower. Now, this is a fairly expensive item in my opinion for just changing the throttle response, but it's perfect for those of you who don't want to mess with all of those other parameters, don't want to run a higher octane fuel, and just want some more throttle response out of the Jeep. As you can see, there isn't too much to this product. It's really just two different wiring harnesses. One gets plugged in between your factory wiring harness on the Jeep and the gas pedal, and that will stay in place all the time. The second is just a button with an indicator light that you can plug into the first harness, make your adjustments, and then unplug if you don't want to leave it plugged into the Jeep all the time. The adjustments that you'll make with this second harness are really switching between one of two modes or turning the system off. There is one mode that is more of an everyday driving, does add some throttle response but isn't too aggressive, and then a second mode that's even more aggressive for an even more sporty feel. Then you can also turn the system off, going back to your factory throttle response settings. As I said, this section stays installed on the Jeep. This section over here you can unplug and remove after you get your setting where you want it, if you're not going to be changing constantly, which is nice because otherwise it'd be something else that you have to pull wires through your dash or stick somewhere. So being able to unplug it, throw it in the glove box when you're not using it, I think is a really nice feature. Now, there are a couple of different versions of the Sprint Booster. One is for the 2007 to 2013, and there's one for automatic and manual through that year range. And then there's a second one for the 2014 to 2016, again, one for automatic and one for manual. So you will want to make sure that you get the right one for your Jeep. Because this is so simple and because it's designed to be completely plug and play, the installation is less than 15 minutes and you don't need any tools. All you'll need to do is unplug the factory wiring harness from your gas pedal, plug one end of this harness into your factory harness, then plug the other end of this harness into the gas pedal. From there, you just plug the switch and indicator light harness into the harness you just installed. Make your selection either off, on for normal driving or the more aggressive mode, and then either unplug the switch and throw it in your glove box or leave it plugged in if you want to. That's really up to you. The whole installation, again, shouldn't take you more than 15 minutes and there aren't any tools necessary. Like I said before, in my opinion, this is a little bit expensive for something that only changes your throttle response when you can get a tuner for only a few dollars more that will change a lot more parameters and actually give you more power, where this just gives you that throttle response and a more powerful feeling. However, there are a lot of you guys out there that don't want to mess with all those other parameters. You don't want to have to run a higher octane fuel, and you're just looking for a little bit more pep and a little bit more throttle response. So for those of you, I think this is the perfect option. Well, there's only so much you can learn about a part like the Sprint Booster when it's sitting on the table, so we decided to plug it in, take it out on the road, and see actually how the thing feels. Right now, I have the Sprint Booster turned off, so we're back into stock throttle response mode. It's not going to affect the way that we're driving right now. It is completely shut off, but I did leave the controller plugged in so I can very easily switch it on and off whenever I want to. Now, this isn't something you're necessarily going to feel when you're just going straight. It's not going to be for those hard pulls or accelerating when you're already moving, but it is going to be something that will affect the throttle response in stop and go traffic. So that's what I'm going to simulate, doing some stopping and some going, and see how this thing really feels, see how it affects the throttle response, and see how it changes versus how it feels from the factory. So just driving around with the Sprint Booster turned off, I've driven this Jeep quite a few times. It feels completely normal, it's completely unaffected. Feels like it always feels. So let's see what we can do here. We'll make sure there's no traffic. We'll come to a stop on the road here, and I'm gonna push the button, and it is showing green, which is a little bit of a sportier mode, but not the all-out mode, and we'll see how that feels. Wow. It actually does make the Jeep feel a lot better, not even just off the line, but maybe it's just my imagination, but it feels to have a little bit more power all the way throughout the power band. Obviously, it doesn't have more power. This is not a tune. We're not actually providing any additional horsepower or any additional torque. This is just changing the drive-by-wire system to make the Jeep feel like it has a little bit more pep off the line. Wow. This thing is crazy. I just chirped second with 35s on a 4-door JK with a 3.8 liter in it. That's kind of amazing. What I'm really curious about, there's no traffic behind us here. I'm gonna stop again. What I'm really curious about is the all-out mode. So I'm gonna push the button again. Now the light has turned red and we are in the sportiest mode that we have. It's definitely a bit more of an increase over that first mode. It definitely has a little bit more pep. This thing has definitely some more get up and go. Again, it's weird because I know it's not actually providing any more power and it's really just a throttle response thing, but regardless of that, it feels good. I really enjoy the way that it drives with the sprint booster turned on and engaged. Even just blipping the throttle when I have the clutch depressed, it definitely responds a lot faster than it did from the factory. Let's see what happens here. We'll give it one more. It's definitely a lot more fun to drive, I'll tell you that. At first, I was thinking that this thing was a little bit overpriced for a device that doesn't actually provide any more horsepower and torque. But after driving it, I would say it's worth every dollar. This thing definitely wakens up the Jeep. If you're going to be installing bigger tires on your Jeep and you want to get back to that factory feel, it's always a good idea to re-gear. That's always going to be the first thing that I'll recommend, getting back to a factory final drive gear ratio by putting the proper gears in the Jeep. And proper gears, it's going to be different depending on the Jeep that you have, depending on your transmission, depending on the tire size, and of course the type of driving that you're doing. If you want to be in the higher RPM band more, or if you're looking for more fuel efficiency on the highway. But once you do that, once you put a set of gears in the thing, a tune is not a bad idea, but if you want to save a little bit of money over a tune and not have to run a higher octane fuel, the Sprint Booster is definitely not a bad option to go with. I would definitely recommend taking a look at this product. So that's my review of the Sprint Booster fitting all 2007 to 2016 JKs that you can find right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.